Make a nice brahmachari ashram, you boys. The 8 Kumaras or something. So I think I have a sense of the topic. With reference to the Gajendra moksha pastime, how to deal with difficulties when they arise in our devotional service. Something will be very easy for me is to give you a preview of one of the topics that we'll be discussing in Gita Nagari. How many of you 8 Kumaras will be going to Gita Nagari for the... Okay. So you'll probably be having a lot of fun somewhere, and you won't hear this discussion. So I'll try to keep it brief, because it's hard to hear things when you're young. The theme in Gita Nagari is say yes to Krishna, and one of the ways to say yes to Krishna, or the circumstances of life, are when difficulties arise, or Prabhupada's phrase is reversals. He used it regularly, so he must have meant a certain context. I mean, within his upbringing and use of language, what does that mean? From my Western perspective, reversal means something like you're in a car and you're going along in a normal pace, and there's a head-on collision, and next thing you know, you're going the opposite direction. Not exactly reversal, it's a collision, and then you're going in a different way. But in the course of life, there are things that happen in their ordinary course of events, and then quite unexpectedly something arises, and it doesn't go as you were planning, and it seems to keep going in another direction and then further in that direction, and looks like a calamity, and like that kind of thing. In the course of life, those things happen, and how do you deal with it in a Krishna conscious way? So the theme in Gita Nagari is going to be stay connected in your relationship with Krishna, or say yes to Krishna. The problem with material existence is we're in material existence, we don't belong here. It's the classic little example Prabhupada gives is the fish out of water. For us, being in water is an unnatural situation. For a fish, it's a natural situation. Take the fish out of water, give him a new computer. Give him a television set, give him all the latest technology and movies, and a hammock and sunglasses and hammock, just fantastic, amenities. And he's not going to be happy. There's only one thing that's going to make him happy. He could go back in the water and then he's happy. He's happy. Similarly, the problem with material existence is we don't belong here. It's the unnatural atmosphere or habitat for us. So how did we get here? And if we understand how we got here, it'll tell us how we can get out. Very simple. I mean, there's an elaborate explanation, but a simple one is close the door. Okay. The simple one is the entryway through which we came in to be seated together here. If we know where that entryway is, then we know the way to exit. Very simple. How did we come? That's how we can exit. So how did we come? We came by saying no to Krishna, or Bahir Mukha Jeev in the language of Jiva Goswami. We turned our mukha, our face or our attention away from Krishna. Bahir Mukha Jeev. And the solution to the problem is not just managing the problem better, it's turning our attention again to Krishna. So the best way to deal with circumstances that as you're going along the path of life and some unexpected difficulty arises is, the do is make sure that your relationship with Krishna is right in the front. Make sure your relationship with Krishna is right in the front of your consciousness. And then you can consider what's appropriate for addressing the circumstance in service to Krishna. Because our position in relation to Krishna is we're his servants. No problem. Our saying yes to Krishna, or it's a simple way of saying, our saying yes to Krishna means that we're situated in our relationship with Krishna. Eternally, every living entity. Who are we? Well, we can say what we're not. We're not this body. And we can say we are spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. I'm spirit soul. That's incomplete. So spirit souls aren't in a vacuum. We're in a relationship with Krishna, like stars in the sky. Self-realization doesn't just mean I twinkle. I'm Brahman. What does Brahman do? I twinkle. We're conscious beings in a relationship with the Supreme Being. Jiver Swarupaya Nityera Krishna Das. We're eternal servants of Krishna. That's our constitutional identity. So if we remain fixed in our constitutional identity, then when you're in the material atmosphere, you can handle the material atmosphere because it's an opportunity for service to Krishna, whether it's going this way or that way. Because this world is a world of duality. Sometimes and sometimes. Like the weather of Chicago. Sometimes and sometimes. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. Sometimes it's day, sometimes it's night. Sometimes you're feeling happy, sometimes you're feeling sad. Sometimes you're honored, sometimes you're dishonored. Wherever there is something, its opposite exists, and wait a while, it's going to move over to the other side. Because that's the nature of this place. It's the world of duality. So how do you address yourself with the world of duality when sometimes it's very difficult? Bhagavad Gita's instruction is you tolerate it. Matra sparshas tu kaunteyas chatoshna sukha dukkada. Because it's according to the language of that verse of Bhagavad Gita, it's arising from sense perception, which isn't who we are. The mind and the senses is not who we are. Those are coverings of who we are. So you may have to make some practical arrangement for the surroundings, the body and the mind. It's covering who we really are. But that's not who we are. We don't identify with who we aren't. We identify with who we are, and we make practical arrangements, whatever. That's appropriate. That's the say yes to Krishna. In short, it's going to be much longer when we get to Gitanagari. There's multiple references I want to make, and I'm just scanning my memory here. Which ones for our purposes this evening, so that we can end with the Gajendra Moksha pastime. One of them it comes from Lord Brahma, who's speaking to Prithu Maharaj. Prithu is an incarnation of Krishna, one of the avatar forms of the Lord, and he is a Shakti Avesh avatar, Shakti Avesh, a living entity empowered with the potency of, the full potency of the Supreme Lord to rule. Palana Shakti. He's the bearer of the Lord's Palana Shakti. So Prithu has become the king. How he appeared is very interesting. And that he's establishing welfare for the citizens. And as a king, at that time, one of the methods was performing Ashvamedha Yagyas. So he had performed 99. And he was attempting to perform Ashvamedha Yagya number 100. And Indra started getting a little nervous, because he thought, uh-oh, he may want to be taking over my position as king of heaven. So he came and stole the horse. And there's details and details, and this is the Supreme Lord, the ruling potency, and someone has stolen the horse. Even he's Indra, the king of heaven. So he becomes upset. Skipping the details. And Lord Brahma, the ruler of the universe, or chief living entity within the universe, comes and pacifies Prithu, saying, just accept this as a providential arrangement. Providential arrangement means an arrangement of God. Providential arrangement. Do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices have not been properly executed due to providential impediments. Kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. So there's what to do and what not to do. Acceptance, and don't get into a fix the problem mode when it's something that is beyond your capacity. There are circumstances of life. When it's cold in the winter, you can't make it not cold in the winter. You can make some adjustments, but you have to accept that it's cold in the winter, etc. There's certain circumstances that are just imposed upon us, adhyatmika, adidaivika, adibhautika, kleshas, that are beyond our... You make some effort to do something. But there must be some acceptance of something that's just beyond your circumstance to deal with. I'll read Prabhupada's purport. I'll make some reference to another perspective on this. Prabhupada's purport. Sometimes The saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals, for the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. But Krishna has also advised us in this connection, this tolerating. Tongues Tatiksha Swabharata, chapter 2. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. Now there's so many. How do you discern what's providential? And on the other hand, something that's not providential and it's meant for you to address it. And a short answer to that is, it takes a little intelligence to discern the difference. And whether it's one or the other, you make some practical arrangement for the circumstance. And at a certain point, like in the Gajendra Moksha story, he's an elephant, and he's taking a bath. And the alligator chomps on his leg. So he tries to shake the alligator off his leg. And the alligator doesn't let go. So he keeps doing it, he keeps doing it, he keeps doing it, he keeps doing it. According to the Gajendra Moksha Leela, 100 years. That's a long time to keep doing it. And his strength became less and less because he was in an unnatural atmosphere and the alligator was in the natural atmosphere. I mean, the alligator must have gotten tired too after 100 years, but then he realized it's over. And because of his previous life as a king, his super soul within, even within the body of an elephant, super soul within gave him remembrance of the stotras, or the prayers, standard prayers that he recited during his previous life. You okay? You guys to see, they moved. You have, even if you're okay on the floor, you reciprocate with your friends who are accommodating you. Hare Krishna. So, practical arrangements may need to be made even when there's providential arrangements. It's not so easy to discern. Is this what Krishna wants? Or what does Krishna want? Does Krishna want that this alligator is chomping on my leg? Whether Krishna wants it or not, the alligator is chomping on your leg, and you have to do something in practical terms. So he did. And then Krishna gave some remembrance to him of his previous life, and he cited those wonderful stotras. And as he recited those wonderful stotras with great anxiety and total dependence upon the Supreme Lord, because he was helpless, what happens in the course of reciting those stotras is, beyond the meaning of the stotra, this light went on inside. It said, "You're my protector. I know that you will protect me. So instead of asking you for relief from my distressful situation, on the other side of this distressful situation, I pray to you that I simply have the opportunity to engage in your devotional service unconditionally for eternity." The circumstance helped increase dependence. Absolute, utter dependence. So, for a devotee, sometimes those arrangements, those difficulties are to help us increase our dependence, because devotional service to Krishna is beyond piety. Is that clear? Piety takes you to the heavenly planets, and beyond piety takes you to the spiritual realm. So it doesn't mean we don't care about doing good things or being pious people, but our focus is not being good and getting the rewards for being good, the fruits of piety. There's some people coming in. If we could all move forward, that'd be really nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll say it again as we shuffling a bit. Very important message of Bhagavad Gita that I didn't understand until I read Bhagavad Gita, the difference between heaven and Vaikuntha, or the kingdom of God. Just sharing this with you. Within Christian theology, at least I never even came across the notion that there's a distinction between the two. Swarga, or heaven, is part of this created realm. And one who goes there is also, it's a temporary situation. After you exhaust the fruits of piety, you come back again. It's very clear in Bhagavad Gita. It's a temporary situation. It's not an eternal, permanent situation by any means. And those that are pious go to the place of the pious. And after your piety is exhausted, you come back again. And then you may do pious activities again, or you may, do the other kind. And just, it's the continual, and so, cycling, like a Ferris wheel. That was fun. Let's do it again. And Vaikuntha, or the kingdom of God, is beyond the cycle of birth and death. It's another place altogether. For Krishna, it's very clear. Don't aspire for even the highest, beyond Svarga, even Brahmaloka. Topmost planet. It lasts as long as the universe lasts. But therein, birth and death also take place. So don't aspire for that, Arjuna. What's left? He doesn't recommend that you aspire for impersonal merging in Brahman either. Nowhere is that found in Bhagavad Gita. He advises, come to me. In his realm where forms are spiritual and eternal, Satchitananda Vigraha, and eternal loving exchanges with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Come to that position. That's Bhagavad Gita's message. So we're not simply looking for a pious arrangement to minimize the obstacles or address them with piety. Anyway, we're interested in taking full shelter of Krishna. And difficulties sometimes are arranged by the Lord to help us take deeper shelter. And then the circumstance is taken away. And then what are you going to do? Remain in the position of shelter? There's a very nice circumstance described in the life of Haridas Thakur. Do you know who is Haridas Thakur? You've heard his name? Haridas Thakur? You know who is Lord Chaitanya? Yeah. So Lord Chaitanya came to bring the